Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. Now, I've been playing World of Warcraft for a very long time at this point. I've been able to participate in and create really epic moments throughout the history of this game for myself and probably likely thousands, maybe millions, maybe I'm overreaching here, but maybe millions of people across the world. And it obviously matters a lot to me. I want the game to be doing as well as it can and succeeding, because that all just filters into itself to create even more epic experiences into the future. Now, I saw a discussion from Asmongold talking about how Mythic rating needs to change, and he went to the WoW Community Council and was reading through a forum post talking about the specific issues and a lot of personal opinion as well on his ideas about the game. And it really got me thinking, about Mythic rating and how it seemingly is tuned for only the absolute upper echelon, right? Like Liquid and Echo, these guilds that are race to the world first, quality guilds that can spend 3 weeks doing split runs and have millions of gold from WoW tokens lined up to feed to people to funnel loot and in order to get the item level to then begin their Mythic raid challenge, and how that isn't really approachable or feasible for the majority of players. We see guilds like Big Dumb Raiding Guild completely disbanding due to burnout, and I know from personal experience from my raid history, most recently it's in Legion, where I was doing Agrimar and we were getting upwards of 200 to 300 wipes on this boss. It's usually the last two bosses that are just causing huge detrimental damage to a lot of raid guilds. And I think it's because these bosses are tuned to try and challenge those Race to World First guilds so that the Race to World First event is prolonged. It's almost like this artificial prolonging of this event for seemingly no other reason except for the event. And then a lot of guilds who are just on the normal Mythic raid level are just completely gatekept away from that type of content. So my idea here is that Mythic rating should become purely an aspirational aesthetic achievement, which means that there is no item level coming from the Mythic raid level difficulty. It is similar to Mists of Pandaria challenge modes where you are templated, similar to the Mage Tower challenges where you go in and it's just about your group's execution of the mechanics at that difficulty in order to complete the content. This way you don't need to artificially tune it in a way so it's so hard so you need to farm gear to get to a certain power level to clear it. Ideally, again, it would be evergreen content so that you'd scale and you could bring your guild back and go and do this challenge whenever you want throughout the expansion if you'd like, to be able to go after some of those lucrative achievements, titles, and cosmetics that would likely have to go along with it. This would then also help with the fact that there are 4 raid tier difficulties of loot and item level that constantly expands our stats to quite ridiculous levels by the time that we're at the end of the expansion. So just by shaving out an entire tier of item level, I think would probably go a long way with that regard. So then the main raid tiers then become normal and heroic for players who are looking for that MMORPG experience in order to grind up their power and get their best in slot gear, focus on their parsing, and try and get, the standard experience from World of Warcraft. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below with this idea. Do you think this is a terrible idea or a great idea moving forward? I'm sure that it's honestly not a unique idea, but rating is really important, right? Because this is kind of the staple for World of Warcraft. I feel like this is usually the first thing that most players come into once they get to max level, as it was for me, and then they usually expand or cross-pollinate into other aspects of the game and start to expand their opportunities and experiences within the game. So the game as a whole succeeds when all of the main pillars of World of Warcraft are doing well and healthy. And I thought that this was an interesting kind of insight and look at rating, particularly in Mythic rating, and what could potentially be holding it back, because I do think that the Race to World First is a cool event to see these players challenged and put to the absolute edge in terms of what they can accomplish in terms of puzzle solving and strategy and determination together. I think it's an awesome event, but I think that the barrier of gearing up and doing all of these split runs and running keys for like hours endlessly for 3 weeks is honestly, maybe a bit overbearing and unhealthy. Now, of course, I'm somebody who doesn't participate in that event, so if you are somebody that does participate and I'm totally off base with this and you enjoy that type of stuff, then make sure to let me know that in the comments down below. But I could definitely see it getting to the point where it's going to be burning you out, like I said, with a lot of these Race to World First guilds disbanding due to burnout and the amount of investment that's involved with it. And this way, by making it templated like mob challenge modes, a lot more people are going to be able to get into it because they don't need all those WoW tokens. They don't need all those split runs. They don't need all that loot funnel. If you want to do that challenge for that race to world first, you just got to get your buddies and you just got to get in there and you just got to beat the bosses because everything is tuned for you in that regard. And then it likely doesn't mean that they need to, sledgehammer nerf things after the race is over so that everybody else who doesn't have all that time to do all of those prerequisites can then actually clear the content and get in there without doing, 300 to 400 wipes on a boss, which can be, really damaging. So I thought it was an interesting discussion. I wanted to throw my 2 cents in there in my idea for this as well, because the game matters a lot to me, like I've said. But I'm totally off base. Make sure to let me know in the comments down below. If you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, smash the subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated.